one topic mentioned in our syllabus, that is single factor. Right? Single factor. But for better understanding of that topic, you have to write monogenic inheritance. Monogenic inheritance. Single factor is not a right term for the understanding of Mendelian genetics in man family study. UPSC has asked question on monogenic inheritance. Right?
Yes, sir.
Basically, Mendel proposed theory like single factor, because in law of unit character, Mendel said that each character is determined by a factor. Each character is determined by a single factor which comes in pair, in which 50% allele comes from mother side and 50% allele comes from father side. So here in this topic, in our syllabus, that mention as a single factor. But better word for the understanding of that topic, first important component of that topic, that is monogenic inheritance. Monogenic means trait that is determined by a single gene. Right? Trait which is determined by a single gene, that trait is known as a monogenic trait. And Mendel proposed theory of monogenic inheritance. Right? But that we will understand in man family study. Main topic is that how that theory related to monogenic inheritance, which proposed by John Gregor Mendel in 1865 in his famous work Experiment on Plant Hybridization, how that work in man family study. So you have to remember about law of unit character, law of dominance, law of segregation, law of independent assortment. Right? But we are going to study that law for the application in human genetics. We are not able to do experiment on man. It is very difficult task to do experiment on man like pea plant. So we understand that application on the basis of examples. Right? So basically in human being, I already discussed, gene is the main factor for the inheritance of trait, genetic trait. Gene is responsible for inheritance of trait from one generation to next generation. Right? So Mendel said factor, those things Mendel called in his research as a factor. Today we know that factor is a gene. Here you have to understand. Mendel did not know anything about gene. He was not familiar with gene. He was not familiar with the chromosome. But he utilized term factor, each character determined by a factor. Today that factor is recognized as a gene. Right? And that gene situated on chromosome. Right? That gene situated on chromosome, and that gene inherited through chromosome. So for the understanding of monogenic inheritance or single factor at man family level, first you have to understand that thing about human chromosome, right? So we have 46 chromosome, right? And that chromosome is divided into two kinds: autosomal chromosome, and second is sex chromosome. Right? And that autosomal chromosome present in 22 pair in human chromosome means 44. Right? And that sex chromosome in female that present in the form of XX, in male that present in the form of XY, right? And because gene situated on chromosome, and we are going to understand about monogenic inheritance in man, right? Monogenic inheritance in man family study, right? So remember about the Mendel law of inheritance. Mendel said that each character is determined by a factor which comes in pair, in which 50% comes from mother side and 50% comes from father side. In same way, gene is a factor which comes in pair, in which 50% comes from mother side and 50% comes from father side. Right? I already discussed about how zygote form. So contribution of father chromosome is 23 and mother chromosome is 23 in zygote. Right? Equal contribution. So Mendelian genetics or inheritance of Mendel genetics, if you want to understand, so we have 5 types of monogenic inheritance in man family level. 5 types of, right? First is, अगर autosomal chromosome की बात करें, right? So that may be dominant and recessive according to Mendel law of inheritance. Gene present on autosomal chromosome may be dominant or recessive, right? And gene present on X chromosome may be dominant or recessive, right? But because Y chromosome is in a single form, hemizygous condition, so here gene present on Y chromosome that is not influenced by dominant or recessive, that inherited from male to male, right? So for the understanding of monogenic inheritance, first important thing is that in human being, human gene inherited through chromosome. Chromosome is divided into two kinds, autosomal or sex chromosome. So monogenic inheritance can be divided into two kinds. First, autosomal chromosome inheritance, right? And autosomal chromosome inheritance can be divided into two kinds, autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, right? Second, chromosome present on X chromosome that inherited through X chromosome. So X chromosome inheritance, X chromosome linked inheritance can be further divided into two kinds, X chromosome dominant and X chromosome recessive, right? And Y chromosome is in hemizygous condition, not dominant and not recessive, right? So for understanding of monogenic inheritance in man family level, you have to understand that autosomal chromosome inheritance, right? And that further divided into two kinds, autosomal dominant chromosome inheritance and autosomal recessive chromosome inheritance. And second, X-linked dominant inheritance and X-linked recessive chromosome inheritance. And then Y-linked chromosome inheritance. Right? 5 things you have to remember. Right? Then, what is the characteristics of autosomal chromosome? Or what are the characteristics of gene which present on autosomal chromosome? Right? So gene present on autosomal chromosome, their inheritance pattern is similar in both sex. Either that gene comes from mother side or father side, that influence to both male and female child in same way. Why? मैं पूछ रहा हूँ कि जो जीन ऑटोसोमल क्रोमोसोम पर सिचुएटेड है उसका इनहेरिटेंस सेक्स के आधार पर डिफरेंसेस क्रिएट नहीं करेगा। क्यों नहीं करेगा? Because there has no differentiation on the basis of sex about the gene which are present on ऑटोसोमल क्रोमोसोम. समझ में आ रही है? इसमें डिफरेंसेस ही नहीं है. सो देन वी हैव to take example from here, example from here, example from here, that is hypophosphatemia, that is hemophilia, and that is hypertrichosis. Hypertrichosis disease, and for recessive, that is phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria. We already discussed that examples. Right? We already discussed that example. Huntington disease or Huntington chorea. Phenylketonuria, hypophosphatemia, hemophilia, hypertrichosis. हाइपरट्राइकोसिस में जो कान पे बाल होता है, कुछ लोगों के कान पे बाल आप देखोगे, है ना, दैट इज कॉल्ड hypertrichosis. So how Mendel law of inheritance apply for the inheritance of that disease? There are other also diseases which determined by dominant gene present on autosomal chromosome, but we take only one example. We are not going to study about the nature of that disease, what causes responsible for that disease. We are only going to understand about inheritance pattern of that particular disease, because that particular disease follow inheritance pattern of Mendel law of inheritance. We easily understand their inheritance pattern. How we will easily understand about the inheritance pattern of that disease. Correct? Remember that. Mendel law of inheritance, Mendel law of dominance. What Mendel said in his law of dominance? Mendel said that dominant allele express himself in both heterozygous and homozygous condition. Remember that. Means dominant allele present in organism, that allele express himself in every generation. How can you understand? Correct? Remember Mendel law of inheritance. Mendel took pure tall plant and pure dwarf plant. So Mendel did cross between pure tall and pure dwarf. So that is heterozygous condition. So only dominant allele, that is T, express himself in this heterozygous condition. But when Mendel did self-fertilization between first generation plant, then he also got appearance of dominant gene in 3:1. Means dominant gene express himself in every generation. Right? This is the law. And that we will understand through the examples of that particular disease, how that law utilize, how that law work for the inheritance of that particular trait in mankind at a family level, at a man level. Right? Autosomal dominant chromosome इनहेरिटेंस. देखो जो ह्यूमन जेनेटिक्स है ना, दैट इज वेरी इजी, मोर इजी than socio-cultural anthropology. This is my opinion. If you learn that in right perspective, learn that in anthropological perspective. Right? So remember Mendel law of dominance. Right? So for the understanding of a inheritance pattern of autosomal dominant chromosome inheritance, suppose A is symbol for mutant gene or defective gene. Right? And A is symbol for normal gene. Right? A is symbol for normal gene for Huntington core, Huntington disease or Huntington chorea. Here Huntington chorea. This is the disease. That disease due to dominant mutant gene present on autosomal chromosome. Right? So suppose that is a husband, and that is a wife. Right? And both try to reproduce child. Then what happened? So condition is that because gene is dominant, right? So 50% offspring is affected by Huntington chorea and 50% is normal. Are you understand?
Yes.
Other condition, you can take other condition that we present in our examination. Try to understand. Here we try to apply about the Mendel law of inheritance for the understanding of monogenic inheritance in man family level. Right? This is our topic. We try to understand that because Mendel law of dominance said that dominant gene appear himself in both heterozygous and homozygous condition. Right? So that male is affected, he is in heterozygous condition. What happens when male is in homozygous condition? Right? So that is male, that is female. Right? So what happened then? Then 100% generation are affected. 100% affected. So for the writing of your answer, you have to take example, you have to take suppose this is the condition, and you have to present that condition through that diagram. Are you understand?
Yes, sir.
This is very simple. I already said that when we have studied about sociocultural anthropology, I already said that human genetics or topic related to biological anthropology is quite easy than sociocultural anthropology or anthropological theories. But generally students are studying book written by bioscientists or zoologists, and they became confused. And somebody are teaching zoology in anthropology on the name of anthropology.
Yes.
Right? This is also very difficult condition. Otherwise, if you study your topic in anthropological perspective, according to demand of UPSC, you feel very comfortable. Once a person asked me कि स्टूडेंट किस टॉपिक में प्रॉब्लम महसूस करते हैं, मैंने कहा मेरे स्टूडेंट किसी टॉपिक में प्रॉब्लम महसूस नहीं करते हैं. मैंने कहा कि मेरे स्टूडेंट किसी भी टॉपिक में प्रॉब्लम महसूस नहीं करते हैं. If you study topic in right perspective, then why you feel problem? Right? Are you understand that thing? Now, you can understand autosomal recessive chromosome inheritance in man family level. Here you have to remember, correct? So for that, an important example we can take, that is phenyl ketonuria. This is a disease caused due to recessive gene, and that recessive gene present on autosomal chromosome. Right?
Yes.
That recessive gene present on autosomal chromosome. Again, you have to remember about the Mendel law of inheritance, law of dominance, law of unit character, law of segregation. Right? So, suppose A refer to mutant gene, but that gene is recessive, not dominant. Correct? And A refer to normal gene. Right? So AA, that condition is condition of career, and AA, that is condition for affected person, right?
Yes, sir.
So suppose here husband is career and wife is normal, then what happen?
50% chances of their baby become really.
So what happen? Result
50-50.
50% career not affected. ये लिखना है एग्जाम में, अगर करियर नहीं लिखोगे तो गलती हो जाएगा. That 50% children are not suffering from that disease, but that will have to inherit that disease in next generation. This is the Mendel law of inheritance. But suppose husband, that is affected, and wife, that is normal, then what happen?
Everyone is affected.
Again, condition is that 100% career,
100% career.
right?
Yes, sir.
So you have to make different condition in your examination, right?
Yes, sir.
Different condition. Once you have to understand how to deal that topic, then you have to make different condition for explaining your topic in examination, right? And then if you take example, husband is career and wife is career, then what happen?
Career.
Right?
75%. 75% career.
No. 25% affected,
20% affected.
50%.
25% normal,
50% career.
and 50% career.
Yes.
So this is the topic,
Yes.
right? I already said that this topic is more easy than sociocultural anthropology, right? Now we take topic related to X-linked dominant inheritance. But here you have to remember one thing. When gene present on sex chromosome, their inheritance pattern shows variation on the basis of sex. One thing remember always. अगर सेक्स क्रोमोसोम पर जीन प्रेजेंट है तो उस जीन का इनहेरिटेंस सेक्स के आधार पर डिफरेंसेस क्रिएट करेगा. अगर आप इसको रिमेंबर नहीं रखते हैं, इफ यू फॉरगेट दैट, तो आप बहुत बड़ा ब्लेंडर कर दोगे. रिमेंबर दैट इफ जीन प्रेजेंट ऑन सेक्स क्रोमोसोम, that gene shows variation, differentiation on the basis of sex in the process of inheritance. Right? So again you have to remember about the Mendel law of dominance. Right? As for example, here example is hypophosphatemia. Right? So what is the characteristic of dominant gene? Dominant gene express himself in single dose in heterozygous condition as well as homozygous condition. Right?
Yes.
So if that gene present in on a sex chromosome, X sex chromosome, then that gene inherited in next generation through that chromosome. So suppose this sign is, this refer to here mutant gene or defective gene, and that means normal gene. Right? So if female present in that condition, that is affected female, and if male present in that condition, that is affected male. Right? You can suppose different thing, but how that inherited? So suppose husband, right, is normal and wife is affected. So what happened?
Female child is affected.
Right?
Yes.
So 50% daughter are affected and 50% son are affected. Right? But what happened when husband is affected?
50% out there.
No, 100%. 100%.
100% daughter are affected
Yes, yes.
and 100% son are normal.
Not affected.
अब देखो कैरियोटाइपिंग का कैसे इस्तेमाल हो जाएगा कि फर्स्ट अगर आपने इनिशिएटिव लिया, आपने कैरियोटाइपिंग करा लिया, पता चल गया कि लड़का है, नॉर्मल है, तो फिर आगे आप रिप्रोडक्शन मत कीजिए, इस बीमारी से जनरेशन मुक्त हो जाएगा. आर यू अंडरस्टैंड?
Yes.
So you have to take different condition and you have to present that condition through that diagram. Right? Next. X-linked recessive chromosome inheritance. Right? X-linked recessive chromosome inheritance. है ना? What happened in that condition? So remember Mendel law of inheritance. Right? So Mendel said that recessive gene only express himself in homozygous condition, double dose में एक्सप्रेस करेगा, सिंगल में नहीं करेगा, सिंगल में करियर करेगा. So famous example related to that is hemophilia, right? And suppose this is mutant gene, right? And this is normal. So if condition is that is carrier female, if condition is that is affected male. Right? So if husband is normal and wife is carrier, what happened?
Daughter will not affected.
Okay.
50% आएगा, so
So 50% daughter is carrier,
career
50% son is affected, and 50% son is normal, and 50% daughter is normal. Right? You can change that condition. If husband is affected and wife is normal, then what happened?
Daughter are gay.
100% daughters are carrier, and 100% son are normal. Right?
Yes.
So this is X-linked recessive inheritance, and last is Y-linked
chromosomes inheritance.
chromosome inheritance. Y-linked chromosome inheritance. Right? X-linked chromosome inheritance. Here Y-linked chromosome inheritance. The Y chromosome is very small. There is few gene present on Y chromosome, and Y chromosome only present in male. So gene present on Y chromosome only inherited through male to male, not male to female. Right? As for example, hypertrichosis. Right? So here, suppose that is mutant gene, and that is normal. Right?
Yes.
So if husband is affected and wife is normal, then that gene only influence to son.
Son, not
100% son are affected. Right?
yes.
So this is single factor or monogenic inheritance.
They are affected or